I'd expect that most companies have at least one product from their past that they'd really rather you forgot about. For example, Nintendo with their Virtual Boy, or perhaps Apple with the first iTunes phone. Now that's not to say there aren't fans of these things out there, well perhaps not the Motorola Rocker, but I've got a Virtual Boy and I've got the neck problems to prove it. Well, today I'm going to be dragging a skeleton out of Sennheiser's closet by showing you their largely forgotten Surrounder from 1999. Let me just read you the sales blurb for the reason for this thing existing. It says, conventional surround systems include 4 or even 5 loudspeakers that make them difficult to install, especially in small rooms. And they need to be operated at higher volume levels for full enjoyment, and your neighbours might not be too happy about this. Right, well, let me introduce you to their solution. It's your own personal surround sound system. This is the Sennheiser Surrounder. Let's take a good look at it. This rather complicated mess of components you see in front of you make up the Sennheiser Surrounder Pro. This is the Sennheiser DSP Pro, and this is the Surrounder. These were sold together as the Surrounder Pro, but you could buy them both individually as the Surrounder and the DSP Pro. So I think it's better if we split them out and then we can have a look at them individually. Right, now that makes it a lot easier to handle. So we're just looking at the Surrounder first of all. Now over here is the power brick. This thing requires power because it's got a built-in amplifier for 4 channels. So we've got a 12 volt power supply here, terminated in a barrel plug, and then that connects into the end of this cable here, which has the barrel plug, and then 2 mini jacks, one for the front pair and one for the rear pair of speakers. If we look around the device itself, these are your front left and right speakers that go either side of your head. And then this is your rear left surround, and that's your rear right surround. Now it looks like the ports for these are actually here, or maybe they're just bass ports, I'm not too sure. The sound definitely feels like it's coming out of the rear section here rather than at the front, and when you cover that up it doesn't seem to make any difference. So I've got a feeling the drivers are behind this grille here, but maybe I'm just imagining that. Now you might have noticed already, but this is actually made out of polystyrene. I think you can see it if you look at it close up there. So it's quite lightweight, but it is bulky. On the front here, we've got the volume control and the bass. So this device can be used on its own. All you need to do, plug this into a suitable sound card on a computer and plug it into the power, and it's self-contained, you're ready to go. The reason that there were so many wires before is because that was the DSP Pro. Now the DSP Pro came out a couple of years before this and can decode Pro-logic surround sound from your DVD player, for example, and then pipe that through these speakers here. So I'll move this out of the way and we'll just have a look at the DSP Pro now. Okay, now this rather complicated mess makes up the Sennheiser DSP Pro. That's the unit on its own. In this end, you connect up this long wire, which is really designed to stretch across a room, so you can plug that into your DVD player or whatever it is you've got at the other end next to the screen, and then you bring this back to the position you're sitting in. At this end, as well as plugging into the back of your source, you also need to plug it into another power supply. There's another barrel plug here, and this is a 9 volt power supply. So when you're using the Sennheiser Surrounder in conjunction with this, you're going to be using up 2 power supply sockets, as well as, of course, all the rest of the equipment that are plugged in. Now, on here, we've got left and right, and then we've got the centre and surround. So you plug the Surrounder into those, and of course those output the sound to the appropriate speakers. And the purpose of this, it's like a multifunction device really. It's a Dolby Pro-logic decoder, but also you can plug a normal set of headphones into this and, using the various controls on here, make it sound like you're listening to surround sound using various DSP technologies. Now, as well as plugging normal headphones into this, you could use these 2 supplied adapters to split those out to the 4 channels and then you could send those off to some amplified speakers and just use this as a Pro-logic decoder. Let me just plug it in and I'll just show you what it looks like when it's powered up. Okay, so I press the power button, and I don't know whether you can see this properly with all these lights in here, but there are little red LEDs lighting up all over this. So your volume control here, the LED moves around that arc there. If you press the test button, it sends a test signal, white noise, to each of the 5 speakers. Now, of course, with the surrounder, that does send audio to the individual speakers, but the centre one there is no centre speaker, so it's using a phantom centre speaker, which is a combination of the left and right front. But there's a lot of clever stuff on here for adjusting it for your ears, as well as your theoretical seating position within the 3D environment. So yeah, very nice little unit that, but really pretty much essential to get this along with the surrounder if you're going to be plugging your surrounder into anything other than a PC sound card. Okay, let's talk about the experience. What's it like to use? Well, I'm going to start off with comfort, or perhaps lack of comfort. It's not entirely agonising to wear, but it isn't pleasant either. The positives are that it's very lightweight. I mean, it's as light as you could make it. Remember, we've got 4 speakers in here and an amplifier, and I think that's about as good as you're going to get. I can understand why they use polystyrene in it. It looked cheap construction, but it makes sense when you think about it. It sort of sits strangely on the shoulders. I suppose that very much depends upon your shoulders. We do have these padded sections here, which no doubt soften it a little bit, but it just feels like it's kind of hitting against your bones a little bit, so it's not entirely pleasant. I don't know what it would be like to wear this for a long period of time. It definitely seems something that's perhaps more suitable for just playing a computer game for a while rather than watching films all night. And besides which, if you're trying to sort of lay back on the settee, well, that's not going to happen. You've got to sit upright. Right, so the comfort isn't really there. Also, vision, it blocks out a lot of your side vision here. For example, if I sort of put something down there, like a remote control, for example, you can't actually see my hand, but anyway, at the side of me there, and I wouldn't be able to find it. It has to sort of be out there before I can see it. Sound-wise, okay, now this is a positive really. It sounds all right, not bad at all. The surround sound system works fine, even though we've only got the 4 speakers on here. By using the DSP attachment that puts in the extra phantom speaker in the middle, which is basically just sharing the audio between the left and right, and it works fine. You can pan the sound all the way around. The ones at the side here, they do feel like they're at the side. It's like having the speakers in the side of the room rather than behind you, but that's fine because surround sound systems are quite often set up that way anyway. And of course, this is going back to 1999, so I'm not dealing with a sort of 7.1 or a Dolby Atmos system. This is just a 4-channel, but really a 5-channel system. No separate subwoofer, of course, so no big rumble effects, but the bass on here is pretty decent as well. The rear speakers are designed to put out the bass, really, and it's not directional, so it just feels quite a good solid sound. Of course, with it being Sennheiser, they know what they're doing, so the overall sound quality is decent. There's nothing that I can say really bad about it. A decent set of headphones would be better. Decent set of speakers in a room would be better, but for what it is, not bad at all. You can see once I've got it all set up here, there's a heck of a lot of wire, and it's very easy for it all to get tangled as well. Of course, the surrounder itself has this long wire coming out of the front of it. That's so you can attach it up to a computer. But when you're using it in conjunction with the DSP Pro, you don't need that much wire. You just need it to go from your neck down to this that would be perhaps next to you on the couch. So you've got a lot of spare wire hanging around. And then this, of course, attaches up to the television with a long lead across the room, or to your DVD player or whatever. So you've got a wire spread across the floor, a bit of a trip hazard there. And the price for all this when it came out back in '99, well, the Surrounder Pro kit, the Surrounder plus the DSP all in one bundle, cost 599 Deutschmarks, and the Surrounder on its own was 399. This was just before Germany switched from Deutschmarks to Euros, and the conversion rate between those is approximately €1 to 1.95 Deutschmarks at the time, so you can effectively halve those prices to get the euros, and then of course adjust them for inflation to bring you back up to what they would have cost approximately nowadays. It wasn't cheap. If you're interested in the specifications for the Surrounder, they're on screen now. And you can see at the top there's a mismatch between the power of the front and rear speakers. We've got 2 times 1 watt at the front, but 2 times 5 watts at the rear. This is explained in the manual in the next to bottom paragraph on this page, where it says that the Surrounder's rear speakers are larger and mainly reproduce the lower frequencies. This has no influence on the spatial impression, as the direction of low frequency sound cannot be determined by the human ear. The higher frequencies, which are important for creating the three-dimensional impression, are reproduced by the Surrounder's front speakers. Therefore, the front speakers can be smaller in order to not obstruct the TV screen. One thing that is particularly worrying about this whole setup are these 2 barrel plugs, because they are identical in dimension. However, the power bricks themselves, or the wall warts, whatever you want to call them, are different. That's 12 volts, that's 9 volts. It mentions in the instructions in particular not to get those 2 things mixed up. You don't want to feed your 12 volt supply into your 9 volt device, because the 9 volt one is the DSP Pro, and it's the amplifier inside the Surrounder that needs the 12 volt. So I've made sure I've labelled them up on the bottom so I don't mix them up. Okay, in summing up, it doesn't need me to tell you that this is a ridiculous product, but of course that is why I bought it. If it was a sensible product, I wouldn't have been drawn to it. The fact it came from Sennheiser, who to me seemed like a very sensible company, who are well renowned for bringing out decent quality headphones and have got a lot of respect in the market, that this came out from them in 1999 tickles me to no end. It's a ridiculous thing for them to do. It seems like just a moment of madness in a way. Now, as far as the actual practicalities of using it, I can't imagine very many people who bought one of these used it for very long. Even if you could get over the ridiculous nature of it and the slight uncomfort as well, then on top of that, you've got the wires. I think that's the thing that really kills it for me nowadays. Just the amount of spaghetti of wires that this thing creates, that you'd have dragging across the room every time you wanted to use it, really does make it impractical. It's slightly more practical if you were to plug it into a computer and just avoid the DSP device and just use it with a sound card. That's perhaps a little bit simpler, but still it's a large object. Trying to find somewhere to put this. I mean, I've had difficulty. I'm going to put it back on my shoulders because I don't know where to put it at the moment. I've had difficulty with this all the time I've been meaning to do this review. It's just been getting in the way all the time. So it's the kind of thing that I would suggest if you do want to try one of these out, then by all means hunt one out. I don't think there are many available though. I don't know how long it was on the market for. It seems like it probably wasn't very long. And the ones that I've seen for sale have mostly come up in Germany, but I do know it did make its way to the US as well, looking at some reviews online. But it seems like one of those products that came out and then died very quickly. So you might have trouble finding one, but I wouldn't worry too much if you don't, because you're not really missing out on all that much. It's an unusual novelty, and that's pretty much where it ends. Anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching. Well, that's a weight off my shoulders. I couldn't let this one finish without just mentioning a few of the other neck speakers. Going back to the 1970s, there was the Bone phone. That was an AM/FM radio that was contained really within kind of a weighted sack that went around the shoulders. And I think the sound was supposed to be conducted through your bones in a way, but from what I've read on the reviews, it was really just a radio with some speakers inside a sack and you just heard it normally through your ears. I don't think it was anything particularly exciting. Moving past the Sennheiser Surrounder though, we've now got some new products on the market. There's a neck speaker from Bose, there's one from JBL, and there's one from Sony as well. Now I've got 2 out of those 3 that I'm going to be featuring neck to neck in a future review video, so look out for that.